For 8 years, Alexander Alex Jennings had served as Elon Musk's most trusted bodyguard. A former Navy SEAL, Alex was known for his ability to blend into the background, his sharp eyes constantly scanning for potential threats while his presence remained unnoticed. At 42, he stood tall with the solid build of a linebacker and a quiet, almost impenetrable demeanor. His colleagues at SpaceX had dubbed him the Ghost for his ability to appear precisely when needed and then vanish without a sound. It wasn't that Alex liked the nickname. It was simply the way he had always worked, unseen but ever watchful. In all these years, Elon had never questioned Alex's abilities. The man was always there, always ready. Whether it was navigating a security breach or attending an unexpected situation, Alex was prepared for everything. Elon respected him more than anyone on his team. Alex wasn't just a bodyguard. He was a pillar of reliability. Elon often felt that if he could trust anyone, it was Alex. But everything changed one Tuesday morning. Elon was on his way to a crucial meeting with the engineers at SpaceX's headquarters to discuss a new Mars mission. As usual, Alex walked 3 steps behind him, eyes scanning the crowd of engineers, technicians, and staff in the bustling corridor. Everything was typical, except for one small detail. As they rounded the corner toward the main conference room, Alex faltered slightly. It was barely noticeable, just a slight stumble, but Elon caught it. He turned his head, eyebrow raised. "You okay?" Alex quickly recovered, offering a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Yes, sir. Just clumsy today." Elon didn't believe him, but his gut told him that something was off. In 8 years, he had never seen Alex lose his balance, even once. Something in the man's posture, the way his shoulders tensed, made Elon pause. His mind, sharp and instinctive, filed away the unusual moment. He couldn't ignore it. The meeting dragged on for over 3 hours, with Alex standing silently by the door. As usual, he remained attentive, never sitting, never showing boredom. When the meeting finally ended, Elon was in a rush to catch a flight for another call with investors. As they walked toward the stairwell, Alex made a suggestion that seemed out of place. "Take the elevator, sir. It'll save time." Elon raised an eyebrow. "Since when do you worry about 2 flights of stairs?" Alex's face was unreadable as he replied, "Just saving time, sir. We got 5 minutes to spare." Elon hesitated for a moment before shaking his head, deciding to take the stairs anyway. "I need to move after sitting for so long." As they ascended, Elon climbed quickly, taking 2 steps at a time. But when he reached the landing between floors and turned to check on Alex, something wasn't right. Alex was only halfway up the flight, his hand gripping the railing tightly. His face had a grayish tint, and his breathing was labored, much harder than it should have been for someone in his prime. Elon paused, his mind racing. "You okay?" Elon asked, voice tight. Alex straightened instantly, catching up with Elon as though nothing was wrong. "Catching up on my workout, sir," he said with a forced smile, but the strain in his voice was unmistakable. Elon narrowed his eyes, but he didn't press. Instead, he continued up the stairs, though his mind lingered on Alex's odd behavior. The man was never this vulnerable, this human. Later that afternoon, as they crossed the parking lot toward the waiting car, Alex's phone rang. He pulled out of his pocket, and Elon caught something strange. Alex's hand was shaking. Not violently, but it was noticeable. Alex quickly switched the phone to his other hand, concealing it as he answered the call with a crisp, professional tone. "Rivera," Alex said, stepping away slightly for privacy. Elon, who prided himself on noticing the smallest details, couldn't help but feel a knot of unease twist in his stomach. He watched Alex's face change subtly, his professional mask slipping for a brief moment before returning to the same stoic expression. The call lasted no more than 30 seconds, but when Alex returned, Elon didn't need to ask. He could tell something wasn't right. "Everything okay?" Elon asked casually as they continued walking toward the car. "Yes, sir. Just a scheduling change for tomorrow's security rotation," Alex replied smoothly. Elon nodded, though his intuition told him otherwise. As a serial entrepreneur, he had made billions by trusting his instincts. And something Something small was amiss with Alex. By Wednesday, everything seemed normal again. Alex was back to his usual sharp self. No signs of the fatigue he'd exhibited the day before. But Thursday morning, during a meeting about a new battery technology, Elon noticed something unsettling. He asked Alex a simple question about their afternoon schedule, but Alex stared at him blankly for several seconds before he answered. "Sorry, sir. The tour of the new battery facility is at 2 o'clock, Alex said, blinking as though trying to clear his thoughts. Elon was taken aback, but he didn't comment. That evening, as they walked back to the car, he noticed something else. Alex placed a hand against his side and winced when he thought no one was looking. It was subtle, but it didn't go unnoticed. Friday morning, when Elon arrived at his usual early hour, he found another security guard waiting for him in the lobby, a younger man named Marcos who usually worked the evening shifts. "Good morning, Mr. Musk," Marcos said, standing stiffly, clearly trying to look confident. Elon's brow furrowed. "Where's Alex?" "Mr. Rivera is taking a sick day, sir," Marcos replied. Elon stopped walking. A sick day? In 8 years, Alex had never once taken a sick day. Not for the flu, not after an injury from training, not even after a close call on the line of duty. "A sick day?" Elon asked again, his voice rising slightly. "Yes, sir. He called it in early this morning," Marcos explained. Elon felt a growing sense of unease. He tried to shake it off, telling himself it was nothing. But he couldn't ignore the feeling that something had changed, something big, something he couldn't explain. The entire day passed with Elon glancing around, expecting Alex's steady presence to be beside him. Instead, Marcos shadowed him, eager but clearly out of place. By evening, Elon knew this wasn't just a sick day. At 8 p.m., Elon made a snap decision. "Change of plans," he told his driver, handing over an address. "I need to go to this address." The driver hesitated but said nothing. 20 minutes later, they arrived at a quiet street in Hawthorne. Elon stepped out and walked up to a small, neat house, one that, according to employee records, belonged to Alex. The door was unlocked, and after a few firm knocks, Elon entered. Inside, the house was eerily silent. Water was running somewhere in the back. Moving toward the kitchen, Elon found Alex lying motionless on the floor, his body cold and pale. The phone, barely within reach, told a story of an attempt to call for help that never came. "Dante, can you hear me?" Elon asked softly, kneeling beside him. But there was no response. Elon's heart pounded as he dialed 911 and waited. The sirens wailed in the distance as he cradled Alex's head in his lap. The brilliant entrepreneur, the genius behind SpaceX, the mind that could land rockets on their tails, was now powerless. He could only wait, his own heart heavy with the weight of this unanticipated responsibility. The rest of the night was a blur of hospital rooms and urgent care. But when Alex finally woke, his first words shocked Elon more than the accident itself. "You shouldn't be here," Alex rasped, still too weak to sit up fully. But Elon wasn't going anywhere. Not now. Not ever. The hours that followed were a blur of sterile white walls, hurried nurses, and the constant beeping of machines. The hospital room was quiet, save for the mechanical rhythm of Alex's recovery. Elon sat in a hard plastic chair, his laptop open on his lap, though he barely noticed the work piled up before him. His mind was elsewhere, focused entirely on the man in the bed, the one who had kept him safe for years. Alex's condition wasn't a simple one. The doctors had run a battery of tests, and the results were grim. Polycythemia vera, a rare form of blood cancer. The disease was slowly taking over Alex's body, thickening his blood, creating clots, and making every step more perilous. The doctors had spoken in medical terms Elon could barely comprehend, but what stood out was the urgency. Alex's body was fighting itself. Elon had seen his fair share of crises. He had navigated the explosion of prototypes, massive financial hurdles, and even threats to his life. But this was different. This wasn't about tech, rockets, or business. This was about a person, his person. And Alex wasn't just a bodyguard. He was someone Elon trusted implicitly, a man who had saved his life more than once and had never asked for anything in return. The decision had already been made the moment Alex collapsed on the floor of his kitchen. Elon wouldn't replace him. He wouldn't stand by and let his most trusted ally slip away without doing everything in his power to help him. Elon was accustomed to making big decisions quickly. The same quickness that had driven his companies to success now propelled him to act. Without a second thought, he called his assistant, directed her to cancel all his meetings, and informed her that he would be focusing on Alex's treatment. The world's top medical experts needed to be assembled immediately. He didn't want to just save Alex's life. He wanted to find a solution that would help him thrive again, not just survive. And if that meant taking an unorthodox route, so be it. Within hours, Elon was in touch with some of the most brilliant minds in the field of hematology. Doctors from top-tier institutions were mobilized, including specialists who had worked on experimental treatments for rare blood disorders. The goal was clear: save Alex, and do it in a way that was as innovative as the technologies Elon had built over the years. No corners were to be cut, no resources spared. For the next few days, Elon was a man possessed. He barely slept, spending every waking moment coordinating Alex's care. When he wasn't on the phone with the best doctors in the world, he was at Alex's bedside, reading through medical papers, taking notes, and learning about the disease that had invaded his bodyguard's life. He wasn't just taking a back seat in this. He was going to be as much a part of Alex's recovery as the medical team. When the doctor spoke of treatment options, Elon listened intently. He didn't just ask the usual questions. He questioned every detail, wanting to understand the science and the reasoning behind every recommendation. If there was a better way, he would find it. On the fifth day, the specialists presented their plan: a combination of blood thinners, chemotherapy, and phlebotomy, removing blood to help ease the flow and prevent clots. The team explained that while these treatments could alleviate some symptoms, they were not a long-term solution. Alex would need a bone marrow transplant if they were to have any hope of curing the disease completely. Elon had heard enough. The next step was clear: find a match for a transplant and get Alex on a specialized treatment program. The doctors were concerned about finding a match due to Alex's mixed heritage. It would be difficult, but Elon wasn't about to back down now. What's the next best step? Elon asked Dr. Khan, the hematologist who had taken the lead on Alex's case. We can begin with standard treatment, Dr. Khan said cautiously. But without a donor match, we are limited. The experimental treatments could help, but they come with significant risks. Let's take those risks, Elon said without hesitation. No one's going to tell me that my guy can't be saved. Dr. Khan looked at him with a mixture of respect and uncertainty. You realize this could be expensive, unconventional. It might not be approved by the insurance. Elon leaned forward, his eyes cold with determination. Money is not the issue. What matters is that we find a solution. I want the best for Alex, no matter the cost. There was a moment of silence as the weight of Elon's words sank in. Understood, Mr. Musk. We'll begin immediately, Dr. Khan said, sensing the gravity in Elon's voice. Elon nodded sharply, his mind already racing through the logistics. Alex was going to survive. That was the only outcome Elon was willing to accept. The next morning, Elon drove to the hospital. He had only slept for a few hours, but his mind was sharper than ever. As he walked down the sterile corridors, he thought about what Alex meant to him, not just as a bodyguard, but as a person. Elon had always been a visionary, but Alex had always been the one to keep him grounded. The thought of losing him to something as cruel as cancer was unbearable. When he reached Alex's room, the bodyguard was awake, his eyes glazed over from the sedatives. He looked tired, older than he had the day before. "How are you feeling?" Elon asked, his voice soft, but the underlying urgency was evident. Alex turned his head slightly, trying to focus on him. "I'm okay, just tired." Elon sat at his side, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I'm not letting you go. We're going to beat this together." Alex's lips parted in an attempt to speak, but his voice was barely a whisper. "Sir, you've done so much already. I don't want to be a burden." "You're not a burden," Elon said firmly, squeezing his shoulder. "You're family, and I never abandon family. We're in this together, whether you like it or not." Alex managed a weak smile. It was an attempt at humor, But there was something deeper in his eyes, something that conveyed gratitude, relief, and an unspoken promise to fight. For the first time since Alex's diagnosis, Elon felt like he could breathe again. They were going to win. He wasn't going to let Alex down. But even as Alex rested, his body still weak from the previous days, Elon couldn't shake the feeling that there was more at play. Something beyond just the cancer. Over the next few weeks, the treatments began to take effect. Alex's blood counts started to stabilize, and the experimental treatments seemed to be working better than expected. But the journey wasn't over. Elon knew that. He was prepared for the long haul, for whatever came next. His mind was already focused on the next stage of Alex's recovery, the bone marrow transplant. But one thing was clear. Elon wasn't just saving Alex's life. He was saving the man who had kept him safe through it all. The man who had protected him without question, without hesitation, for years. It was time to return the favor, and Elon Musk would stop at nothing to ensure Alex would be safe again. The weeks that followed saw the whirlwind of medical experts working tirelessly to figure out the best treatment plan for Alex. Elon was in constant contact with specialists, constantly researching and pushing for new solutions. Alex's condition had stabilized, but it was clear that it was only temporary. If the bone marrow transplant didn't happen soon, the disease would worsen and the clock was ticking. Elon Musk had always been driven by the desire to push boundaries, to innovate, and to overcome impossible odds. This was no different. What other billionaires might have dismissed as a medical challenge too complex to take on, Elon saw as a problem that could be solved with the right resources and mindset. Money was no object, and for once, he didn't focus on the business or the next big project. His focus was entirely on Alex. Every morning, Elon arrived at the hospital, his eyes sharp, his mind focused. He would sit by Alex's bedside, running through strategies, coordinating with the best doctors, and working remotely from his laptop in between patient visits. But there was no question he was there for Alex. He had made a promise, not just to himself, but to Alex, that he wouldn't let him go without doing everything possible to save him. In one particularly important meeting, Elon was in a room with Dr. Khan, a specialist in experimental treatments, and a team of hematologists from different parts of the world. Elon had requested they meet to discuss Alex's case, and his intense presence left no doubt that this wasn't just another corporate meeting. This was personal. I've spoken to specialists from Europe, from Israel, and I've gotten them to review your findings, Dr. Khan said, scrolling through a tablet. The problem is finding the right donor. Alex's mixed heritage complicates things. Elon leaned forward, his eyes scanning the data on the screen. What about alternative methods? He asked. I don't want to wait. Can we start developing new procedures? Something experimental? I understand the urgency, but we need to be cautious. The treatments we're considering are not FDA approved, and they carry significant risks, Dr. Khan replied, her voice steady but laced with concern. You can't bypass the medical regulations just because you have resources. I'm responsible for his care. I don't care about the regulations, Elon said, his tone unwavering. I care about saving Alex. I know you do too. If there's any chance, anything at all, let's take it. I want the best scientists, the best researchers, the best technology available to us. I don't want to wait for approval. I want results. Dr. Khan paused for a long moment, glancing at the other specialists in the room. They understood the gravity of the situation, but knew that pushing the limits came with consequences. However, in the end, they agreed. We'll start developing an experimental approach, Dr. Khan said, still cautious but now with a sense of resolve. It's not going to be easy, but we'll do our best. Elon didn't hesitate. I'll fund whatever you need. Let's move forward. The decision to pursue an experimental treatment was not one made lightly. Elon's commitment to Alex became a defining moment, not just for his bodyguard, but for him personally. It wasn't just about business anymore. It was about loyalty and the deep bond they shared. Elon had always been a visionary, but now he had to believe in something more intangible, the human connection that existed between the two of them. Over the next few days, Elon threw himself into the mission of saving Alex. His companies continued to run, but he delegated his responsibilities to his top executives, ensuring that they could handle the day-to-day operations. He was going to see this through. His mind was no longer fixated on the future of space travel, electric vehicles, or artificial intelligence. For now, his only goal was the survival of the man who had dedicated his life to protecting him. Elon's team of medical experts started to come together in a way he hadn't anticipated. They were excited about the challenge, but wary of the risks. They needed a bone marrow transplant, and they needed it soon. But finding a match was difficult. As the days went on, the medical team began to explore unconventional options, working with genetic databases to look for potential donors. Meanwhile, Elon continued to do what he did best: leverage his network. He called in favors, reaching out to some of the world's leading geneticists and biologists, asking for their help in locating a viable donor for Alex. He didn't care if they were working on something else or if they had a busy schedule. Alex's life was on the line, and he was not going to back down. It wasn't long before Elon's relentless pursuit led to a breakthrough. After exhausting every traditional option, they found something unusual, an older brother that Alex didn't even know he had. When Elon first heard about the match, it was from Dr. Khan, who had made the discovery after digging deeper into Alex's family records. "There's someone," Dr. Khan had said over the phone, her voice filled with a sense of cautious optimism. "A half-brother named Marcus Rivera. He's living in San Diego. We ran the genetic tests, and the match it's not perfect, but it's close enough to give Alex a real shot." Elon felt a mix of surprise and relief. Is he willing to donate? We don't know yet. We're reaching out to him, but this could be the key to saving Alex's life. Elon wasted no time. He personally contacted Marcus, explaining the situation and the urgency of the matter. Marcus, who had lived a quiet life away from his half-brother, had no idea of Alex's existence. But when he learned of his brother's condition, his hesitation melted away. He agreed to be tested for the bone marrow match. It wasn't easy for Alex, learning that he had a brother he'd never known. The discovery was jarring, especially considering how Alex had grown up with a single mother who had kept much of the past hidden from him. But, as strange as it seemed, this new connection offered hope. Hope for survival, hope for a future. The procedure was scheduled. The transplant was risky, but it was Alex's best chance. In the meantime, Elon continued to provide the support that only he could offer. Every step of the way, Elon was there, not just as an employer or a business partner, but as a friend. On the day of the transplant, as Alex lay in the hospital bed, preparing for the procedure, Elon stood beside him, his expression solemn but steady. "You don't have to do this alone," Elon said quietly, his voice soft but filled with unwavering resolve. Alex, though weak, looked up at Elon, his eyes filled with gratitude and uncertainty. "I never imagined you'd be here. Not like this. I always thought it was my job to protect you, not the other way around." Elon smiled faintly. "Well, we've both been doing our jobs wrong then." There was a moment of silence, filled only with the hum of the machines around them. Alex's heart rate was steady, but Elon could see the uncertainty in his eyes. It wasn't just the fear of the transplant. It was the fear of the unknown, the fear of losing everything. "Whatever happens," Elon continued, his voice firm, "we're going to face it together. You've been protecting me for years. It's my turn now." Alex looked at him, a flicker of emotion crossing his face. For the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to believe in the possibility of survival. And in that moment, Elon knew that he had done more than just promise to help. He had shown Alex that life, no matter how uncertain, was worth fighting for. And so, the transplant began, an uncertain, risky procedure. But it was a chance, the only one they had. The days after the transplant were a blur for both Elon and Alex. The procedure had been long and grueling, with the bone marrow from Marcus Rivera carefully harvested and infused into Alex's bloodstream. It was a process that required patience and careful monitoring, as Alex's immune system would need to accept the new cells. The next few weeks would be the most critical, the time when Alex's body would either accept or reject the transplant. Elon stayed at the hospital as much as possible, his days blending together with the hum of machines, medical reports, and phone calls to his companies. He had his work cut out for him, SpaceX was preparing for a new rocket launch, and Tesla had deadlines to meet. But every time he looked at Alex, lying in that sterile hospital bed, the priorities shifted. Elon found himself more present than he had ever been before, not just for his companies, but for his friend. He was always there when Alex woke up, always there when the medical team updated him on the progress of the transplant. And even when Alex slept, Elon would sit quietly by his side just to make sure he wasn't alone. But the battle wasn't over. The early days after the transplant were a constant watch for any signs of infection, any changes in Alex's vitals that could signal rejection. The new cells in Alex's body were still adjusting, and there was no way to predict the outcome. For every small victory, there was always the looming fear that things could go wrong at any moment. And then, after several long, exhausting days, came the first piece of good news. Alex was sitting up in his bed, looking a little less pale, a little more like himself. His body had taken to the new marrow, slowly but surely. He still felt weak, but the doctors were starting to notice positive signs. The swelling had gone down, his blood counts were improving, and there was a marked reduction in the thickness of his blood. The first time Alex truly spoke about it, after waking from a short nap, was the first real conversation they'd had in what felt like forever. "I don't think I'll ever get used to this," Alex said, his voice hoarse but steady. "It's all so different. I feel like I'm not even in my own body anymore." Elon smiled faintly, leaning back in the chair beside the bed. "You're not in your own body yet, but you're getting there." Alex gave a weak chuckle, his eyes still heavy with fatigue. "I never thought I'd be here. I never thought I'd survive all this." "Well, you're a stubborn son of a gun," Elon replied, his voice light but sincere. "You're not getting out of this that easily." It was a rare moment of lightness in the otherwise heavy atmosphere that had surrounded the two men for weeks. Alex, even in his weakened state, managed a small grin. It was the first genuine smile Elon had seen from him in days. "You know, I've been thinking," Alex said, his voice quieter now. "I never expected to have another chance at life. I thought my job was just to protect you and make sure nothing went wrong. That was all I focused on." Elon raised an eyebrow, interested but not interrupting. "And now I'm not sure what comes next," Alex admitted. "I've spent so much time protecting you, keeping an eye on everything, but I've never really had the chance to think about myself, about what I actually want." Elon nodded, understanding more than Alex realized. "You're going to have time for that now. Once you're better, you can decide. You've earned that right." As the weeks passed, Alex's strength returned slowly but steadily. The physical toll of the transplant began to lessen, and with each passing day, he could feel the weight of the illness lift from his shoulders. It wasn't easy. The side effects from the treatments still lingered, and the days were long, full of medications and tests. But there was a light at the end of the tunnel now. It wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about living. During this time, something unexpected began to happen. Alex started questioning his life in ways he hadn't before. He had been so dedicated to his role as Elon's bodyguard, so focused on protecting him and keeping him safe, that he had never stopped to consider what he might want out of life for himself. Elon had made it clear that Alex could take his time to heal and figure things out. He didn't push. But as Alex's health improved, Elon began to notice the change in his friend. Alex had always been the quiet, stoic protector, never asking for anything, never expressing any desires beyond his duty. But now there was a shift. Alex was beginning to consider other possibilities. One afternoon, as Elon visited Alex during one of his physical therapy sessions, Alex spoke up again. "Elon," Alex began, his voice serious, "I've been thinking about what comes next. I can't go back to being your bodyguard, not like I was. I'm not sure I can do that anymore." Elon looked at him, his expression calm but attentive. "What do you mean? You don't want to come back to work?" "I'm not sure I want to go back to that life," Alex admitted. "I've been doing it for so long, but I've never really lived. I never thought I could do anything else. I never allowed myself to." Elon paused, considering his words carefully. "You're not the same man you were before. And maybe you're right. Not everyone is cut out to do the same job forever. But whatever you decide, I'll support you. I don't need you to be just my bodyguard. I need you to be you." Alex met Elon's eyes, and for the first time in weeks, he felt something akin to hope. There was no judgment in Elon's expression, only understanding. It was an unexpected gift, a chance to choose a new path. The days following that conversation marked the beginning of a new chapter for Alex. He started to explore possibilities outside of his role as Elon's protector. And though he didn't know what his future would look like, he knew that he had options now. The world, which had once seemed so narrow, now felt wide open. The recovery process was slow but steady. By the time the doctors gave him the green light to move out of the hospital, Alex was physically stronger, but mentally he was still processing everything. There were moments when he still wondered if he had the strength to break away from his past life, from the identity that had defined him for so long. But Elon was there every step of the way, helping him through it. Even when Elon had to go back to running his companies, he made sure to check in with Alex daily, to make sure he wasn't alone in the process of rediscovering himself. One evening, as Elon was leaving the hospital after another long day of meetings and work, he turned to Alex with a small smile. "You know, I think you've got this," Elon said, his voice warm. "You're going to figure it out. It's not going to be easy, but I've seen what you can do. And now it's time for you to use that same energy to figure out who you really are." Alex nodded, a new resolve in his eyes. "I think I can do that." As they walked toward the exit of the hospital, Elon placed a hand on Alex's shoulder, a simple gesture of support. The weight of the last few months had been heavy, but now there was a new sense of possibility in the air. Alex wasn't just recovering from a physical illness. He was rediscovering his own future. And for the first time in a long while, it didn't feel so uncertain. The next few months passed by in a blur of recovery and self-discovery for Alex. He moved into a small apartment near the hospital, a place that was quiet and calming. It wasn't much, but it felt like a fresh start, a space where he could begin to redefine himself. The hospital visits became less frequent, though he still had regular checkups with his doctors. But each visit was more encouraging than the last. His blood counts were normal. His energy was returning. And most importantly, he was healing. As the days passed, Alex found himself doing something he hadn't allowed himself to do in years, taking his time. The pressure to be on at all times, to be the invisible protector, had lifted. There was a world outside the constant vigilance, and Alex began to take small steps into it. He started by walking through the quiet streets of his neighborhood, enjoying the simple act of just being present. The world felt slower, calmer, something he hadn't experienced since before his SEAL days, and it felt like a gift. But as the months went on, there was an undeniable tug in his chest, a question that lingered in the back of his mind. What was he going to do now? What was next for him? Alex had spent so much of his life living for someone else, protecting someone else. The idea of living for himself, of pursuing his own passions, was both liberating and terrifying. One day, as Alex sat in his small living room, staring out the window at the city below, a thought came to him. He had always been drawn to art, to the way people could express themselves through colors and shapes. In the back of his mind, he had always told himself that it wasn't practical, that there was no place for something like that in his life. But now, with his second chance at life, that feeling began to change. He had seen something during his time in the hospital that sparked a desire he didn't know he had. The children, the young patients fighting cancer at the hospital. He had spent time with some of them, watching them struggle through their treatments, and something about their resilience, their ability to smile and hold on to their dreams, had stuck with him. They needed something to distract them from their pain, something to help them express themselves. Alex had always loved to sketch in his downtime. Landscapes, portraits, abstract art, but he had never considered it as anything more than a hobby. Maybe, just maybe, he could use his love for art to help those kids. He could teach them, show them how to create, to express the emotions they couldn't put into words. Alex didn't tell Elon about this idea right away. In fact, it wasn't until one evening, after he'd been in his new apartment for several weeks, that he called Elon and finally shared his thoughts. "Hey, Elon," Alex said when he picked up the phone. "Got a minute?" "Always for you," Elon replied, his tone as steady as ever. "I've been thinking," Alex started, hesitant but resolute. I want to help the kids at the hospital, the ones going through cancer treatments. I think I can help them by teaching them to draw, show them how to express themselves. I know it sounds, I don't know, maybe crazy, but I think it could help. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. For a moment, Alex wondered if Elon thought he was losing his mind. But then Elon's voice came through, calm and reassuring. You're not crazy, Alex. I think that's a great idea. You got something to offer, something those kids need. You're one of the strongest people I know. If you want to do this, I'm behind you. The weight of Elon's words settled in Alex's chest. Elon hadn't hesitated, hadn't questioned him. He simply understood. I think I want to do more than just teach them to draw, Alex continued. I want to create a program for kids, help them through the tough stuff with art, give them something to focus on other than their illness. Elon didn't speak right away, but Alex could hear the quiet sound of him thinking, processing the idea. That sounds amazing, Elon finally said. How can I help? Alex felt a warmth spread through him at Elon's response. I don't know yet. I think I just wanted to get it out there, talk about it. Maybe I'll start with something small. Volunteer, show up once or twice a week. If it works, I'll figure out a way to expand it. Elon paused. Let's make it happen. I can help connect you with the right people. I can talk to the hospitals, help set things up. If you need anything, you have my full support. You've done so much for me. I'd be proud to help with this. Alex felt something deep inside him shift. This was real. This wasn't just a dream. He had an opportunity to use the skills he had gained over the years, skills he had never thought of as transferable, to make a real difference in the lives of the kids who needed it most. And he wasn't doing it alone. Elon was with him, as always, but this time it was for something entirely different. It was for Alex and his future. In the weeks that followed, Alex began to build his program. He reached out to the local children's hospitals, offering to volunteer his time and teach art to kids who were fighting illness. He didn't have a set plan, didn't have a formal curriculum. He simply started by introducing the children to basic art techniques, drawing, painting, sculpting. He showed them how to take something ordinary and turn it into something beautiful. He watched as their faces lit up, as they found joy in something beyond their pain. There was one child, a young girl named Zoe, who particularly stood out to him. She had leukemia, and though she was small for her age, her spirit was big. She had taken to art with such enthusiasm that it inspired Alex more than he could explain. She loved to draw animals, dinosaurs, birds, dragons, and soon, Alex had her making her own comic book, something she could hold on to and show her family. When Zoe showed him her finished pages, her face glowing with pride, Alex knew that he had found something meaningful. This wasn't just about helping them pass the time. It was about giving them a voice when they had none, a way to process their experiences and their emotions. Alex's program grew quickly. Word of mouth spread, and more hospitals called him to ask if he would work with their patients. He was able to secure funding, first through Elon's network and then through his own growing community. With each new child he helped, Alex realized how much he needed this too. He had spent so many years hiding in the shadows, but now, for the first time in his life, he was stepping into the light. He was doing something that mattered, and in a way, it felt like the ultimate protection. He'd spent his life keeping Elon safe, but now he was helping others find safety in their own hearts. Through art, through expression, through understanding their emotions, he was giving them the tools to fight their battles. One day, a few months after he had started his program, Alex received a call from Elon. He had just finished working with a group of young patients at the hospital and was sitting in his apartment, reviewing some art supplies when his phone buzzed. Hey, Alex, Elon said. I've been thinking about your program. I think we can take it to the next level. What do you mean? Alex asked, curious. I think it's time to expand, reach more kids, more hospitals. I'm going to help you with the funding, get more people involved. This could be bigger than just a volunteer program. It could change lives. Alex sat back, stunned. It wasn't just a small idea anymore. It was something real, something bigger than he had ever imagined. I don't know what to say, Alex admitted, his voice thick with emotion. You don't need to say anything, Elon replied. Just keep doing what you're doing. I'm proud of you, Alex. This is your time. And in that moment, Alex realized something he hadn't fully understood until now. He wasn't just a bodyguard anymore. He was someone who had the power to change lives, to help people find their way back to themselves, just like he had. The future wasn't about protecting someone else. It was about living for himself and helping others to live as well. Alex's life had transformed in ways he never imagined possible. The shift from being Elon Musk's trusted bodyguard to a man building a program that gave hope to children battling life-threatening illnesses was a change so profound that even he sometimes struggled to grasp it. But it was the life he had chosen, a life focused not on surveillance and protection, but on healing, creativity, and giving back. His program, initially small, was growing faster than he had anticipated. What started as a handful of art sessions for children in the local hospital had now expanded to multiple medical centers across the country. Alex's vision was becoming a reality, and he had Elon to thank for it. Elon, ever the innovator, had connected Alex with several organizations and philanthropists who had been eager to support his mission. Alex had been reluctant at first to accept outside help, feeling that the program was personal, something that should be born out of his own determination. But as the program gained momentum, he realized the value of having people who shared his passion for helping others. And with Elon's influence, the funding was almost effortless. It wasn't just the financial backing that made the difference. Elon had introduced Alex to a network of experts who helped him refine the structure of the program. He brought in experienced therapists, artists, and educators who could assist with developing a curriculum tailored to the specific needs of the children. It was no longer just a few art classes. It was a structured, therapeutic program designed to help kids cope with the emotional and psychological trauma of illness. One afternoon, as Alex was preparing for another art session at the hospital, his phone buzzed. It was an email from the team managing the financial side of his program. Alex opened it and found an invitation to a national conference on child health care, with an emphasis on innovative therapies. The organizers wanted Alex to speak about his program, his work with the children, and how art had helped them cope with their diagnoses. The invitation took Alex by surprise. He had never seen himself as someone who could speak on a national stage, let alone present his work in front of an audience. But as he read the email again, a spark of excitement began to form. This was a big opportunity, an opportunity to reach even more people, to expand the program, and to help more children who were suffering. He immediately called Elon. "Hey, Elon," Alex said when Elon picked up. I got an invitation to speak in National Healthcare Conference. They wanted to talk about my program." "That's amazing," Elon replied, enthusiasm clear in his voice. "I'm glad you're getting recognized. It's well-deserved. I don't know if I'm ready for something like this," Alex admitted. "I've never spoken in front of that many people before." Elon chuckled lightly. "I think you're underestimating yourself, Alex. You've done more than most people ever could in their entire lives. And you're helping people. That's something worth sharing with the world." Alex felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. "Thanks, Elon. You've always had my back." "Always," Elon replied. "And, I can help you prepare. If you want to run through your presentation or need any advice, I'm here." Alex took a deep breath. It wasn't just the invitation that had him nervous. It was the idea of standing before hundreds of people, explaining how a simple idea had transformed into something so impactful. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized that the children he helped, the kids who had been given a voice through art, were the real stars of the show. He wasn't just speaking about himself. He was speaking about them. "All right," Alex said, a new determination in his voice. "I'll do it. I'm going to speak." The weeks leading up to the conference were filled with preparation. Alex worked tirelessly on his speech, crafting a story that was as much about the children as it was about his own journey. He wanted to show the world that art was more than just a distraction for children facing serious illnesses. It was a lifeline. It gave them a way to process their emotions, express their fears, and regain a sense of control over their lives when everything else seemed uncertain. Elon was there to help every step of the way. He reviewed Alex's presentation, offered suggestions, and even helped him refine his delivery. Despite being a busy entrepreneur, Elon made time to support Alex, offering reassurance and guidance. And when the day of the conference finally arrived, Elon was the first to text Alex. "You've got this. Just be yourself." The kids are counting on you. Alex stood backstage, feeling the weight of the moment. The room was filled with people, doctors, researchers, social workers, and healthcare professionals, all gathered to hear from leaders in the field. But Alex wasn't nervous about impressing them. He wasn't there to get accolades. He was there to share the stories of the children whose lives had been changed by something as simple as a pencil and a piece of paper. When it was his turn to speak, Alex walked out onto the stage, his heart pounding in his chest. The spotlight felt blinding, but he knew that he couldn't back out now. He had come too far, and the children who had entrusted him with their stories deserved this. He stood at the podium, cleared his throat, and began. "I want to tell you a story," Alex said, his voice steady, though it carried an edge of emotion. "It's not my story. It's their story of the children who, like many of us, face things they didn't choose, things they don't understand. But they don't give up. They fight. And I'm here today because I believe we can give them something powerful to fight with. Art, expression, a way to make sense of their worlds." Alex spoke from the heart, telling the audience about Zoe, a young girl who had used art to escape the isolation of her illness, and about Marcus, a boy who had once seen his cancer as a death sentence, but now saw a future full of possibilities through his drawings. He shared stories of how the children found solace in their artwork, how they found strength in the creativity they had once overlooked. As Alex spoke, he could see the audience beginning to lean in, their interest piqued by the authenticity of his message. They weren't hearing about a flashy new cure or an expensive piece of technology. They were hearing about something real, something that could change lives without any of the usual barriers. "I'm not a doctor," Alex continued. "I'm not a scientist, but I've seen the power of art to heal. And I'm here to tell you that it's time to take these kids seriously, not just as patients, but as people with voices, people with stories, and people with dreams." When Alex finished his speech, there was a moment of silence in the room. He stood there, waiting for some form of acknowledgement, unsure of how it had been received. And then, the room erupted into applause. It wasn't loud or forced. It was genuine, heartfelt, the kind of applause that you only get when people are moved, when they believe in what you're saying. Alex felt a lump form in his throat, but he held it together. He had done it. He had shared his story and, in doing so, had shared the stories of so many children who needed to be heard. As Alex walked off the stage, Elon was there waiting for him. He stepped forward and clapped him on the back. "You did great," Elon said, his voice full of pride. "You're changing lives, Alex. And I knew you could do this." Alex smiled, a mixture of exhaustion and joy on his face. "I couldn't have done it without you. You didn't need me," Elon said. "You had everything you needed inside of you." And for the first time since his recovery began, Alex felt like he truly understood what Elon had meant. He had been more than just a bodyguard. He had been more than just someone who watched over others. Now, he was a person who could make a difference, someone who could inspire change and offer hope. And as he walked through the conference hall, surrounded by strangers who now recognized him not for his past, but for his future, Alex knew that he was finally on the path he was meant to walk. His purpose had shifted, and he was ready to embrace it fully. The conference had been a turning point in Alex's journey, a moment when everything he had worked for in the past few months solidified into something tangible. After his speech, he felt like he had truly found his voice, not just as a protector of Elon Musk's life, but as a man who had a greater purpose beyond his past. He wasn't just a bodyguard anymore. He was an advocate for the children whose lives were touched by illness, using art to help them cope, express, and heal. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Alex's program gained even more momentum, thanks to the attention he received at the conference. Hospitals reached out to him, asking for his help in expanding his program to their facilities. Nonprofits, foundations, and corporate sponsors who were interested in supporting the cause came forward, offering funding, resources, and networking opportunities. Everything that Alex had hoped for, everything he had worked so hard to build, was happening. Despite all the praise and recognition, Alex remained grounded. He wasn't doing this for accolades or recognition. He was doing it for the children, the ones who had smiled when they picked up their first sketch pad, the ones who had found a way to express their pain through paint and pencils. But amidst all the excitement, there was something Alex couldn't shake. It wasn't the growing success of his program or the people offering him opportunities. It was a lingering question that had stayed with him ever since his recovery. What did his future truly look like now? For so many years, his identity had been tied to one thing: keeping Elon safe. He had lived his life on autopilot, driven by a singular purpose. But now, with the cancer behind him, Alex found himself at a crossroads, unsure of where to go next. He had found a new purpose, yes, but it was still a world he was learning to navigate. One afternoon, as Alex walked to the hospital to meet with a new group of children, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Elon. "I was thinking about your program," the text read. "We should set up an art therapy center, a dedicated space for kids to not only create, but to learn, relax, and heal. Something more permanent than what we've been doing." Alex paused mid-step, his heart racing. He had never considered such a grand scale for the program, never thought beyond the volunteer hours he spent in hospital rooms. But Elon's message brought the idea into sharp focus. An art therapy center, a place where children could come for art lessons, counseling, and emotional support, where the focus wouldn't just be on treatment, but on healing their minds and hearts. It was an ambitious idea, one that could change the lives of thousands of kids across the country. Alex stood there for a moment, letting the idea settle in his mind. It was a leap forward, one that would require resources, planning, and a lot of hard work. But it was also a way to take everything he had started and turn it into something that could create lasting change. The vision was bigger now, bigger than anything he had initially imagined. That evening, Alex called Elon. "I got your message," he said. "An art therapy center. I think it's a brilliant idea, but it's huge. I'm not sure where to start." Elon's voice was calm and practical. "I've got a network of people who can help with that. Architects, healthcare experts, even a few investors who've been following your work. We can build a place that not only serves as an art center, but also as a sanctuary for kids. Somewhere they can come, be themselves, and get better." Alex felt a wave of gratitude for the unwavering support Elon continued to offer. It wasn't just about making a profit or getting publicity. It was about making a difference. And once again, Elon was there, ready to take Alex's vision to the next level. "We can make this happen," Elon continued. "I'm all in. What do you need from me? I need your advice. I need the right team, the right resources, and maybe even some input on the design. I want this to be a place that feels like a home, not a hospital. A space that helps these kids feel safe, creative, and inspired." "You've got it," Elon replied without hesitation. "Let's make sure the kids have what they need. I'll take care of the rest." Over the next few months, Alex worked tirelessly to bring Elon's idea to life. With Elon's resources and network, the plan for the Art Therapy Center began to take shape. They decided on a location in a city with a large medical community, a place where the center could be accessible to children from all over the region. They started building a team that included therapists, art instructors, architects, and medical experts, each of whom shared Alex's vision of creating a holistic environment for healing. Alex spent a lot of time in meetings, reviewing blueprints for the center, talking with the architects about the design of the space, and ensuring that every detail was in line with his goal of creating a welcoming, peaceful environment. The center would have dedicated rooms for art therapy, relaxation spaces for the children, and areas where families could join in the creative process. There would be art studios, meditation rooms, and even a small garden for the kids to escape to when they needed peace and quiet. But it wasn't just about the physical space. Alex wanted the center to offer support in every aspect of the children's well-being. In addition to the art therapy, there would be counseling services, mental health support, and access to doctors and specialists who understood the emotional toll illness took on young patients. As the center took shape, Alex began to feel the weight of the responsibility that came with it. This wasn't just another project, it was a commitment. He was about to embark on something that would require his full dedication, his energy, and his heart. And yet, despite the enormity of the task ahead, Alex felt ready. More than ready, he had found his purpose, not in the shadows of others, but in a place where he could make a true difference. He had the chance to change lives, to provide children with an outlet for their pain, and a means to transform their suffering into something beautiful. One evening, as Alex sat in the new art center, which was still under construction, Elon joined him for a walk around the space. The walls were bare, the floors unfinished, but there was an energy in the air, a feeling of possibility that both men could sense. "This place is going to be amazing," Elon said as they walked through the empty halls, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the space. Alex looked around, taking in the potential of what was coming. "I never imagined I'd be here. I was just trying to help a few kids get through their day with a drawing or two. I didn't think it would turn into something like this." "You've always had the potential for something big," Elon said with a smile. "You just needed to see it yourself." Alex paused, looking around the room. It felt like the beginning of something important, something that would touch lives, far beyond what he had ever anticipated. "We're going to change a lot of lives here," Alex said quietly. "One art lesson at a time." Elon nodded. "And that's just the beginning." The opening of the Art Therapy Center was a moment that Alex would never forget. It wasn't just the culmination of months of hard work and determination. It was the realization of a dream, a vision that had started in his own healing process and had now transformed into a beacon of hope for countless children. As the final touches were made to the center, the anticipation in the air was palpable. Alex stood at the entrance, looking out over the sprawling campus that now housed the Art Therapy Center. It was no longer just a building. It was a sanctuary for children who were fighting battles far beyond what anyone their age should have to face. It was a place where the weight of illness could be momentarily forgotten, where creativity could flourish, and where healing could take root. The center was designed to be more than just a space for creating art. It was a place that nurtured every part of a child's well-being. There were rooms filled with colorful paints, clay, and canvases, spaces for drawing, painting, and sculpting. But there were also areas for relaxation, quiet reflection, and healing. The garden in the back was peaceful, lined with benches where kids could sit and let their imaginations run wild. A small cafe area offered comfort food and snacks, and parents could sit with their children while they worked on their art or simply watched. Alex walked through the center, taking in the space that had taken shape so beautifully. It was everything he had hoped for, and more. The children would no longer be confined to sterile hospital rooms. They would have the chance to express themselves in ways that had previously seemed impossible. The opening day arrived, and the excitement was contagious. Families from all over the area had been invited to tour the center, and Alex was there to greet them, ready to show them the fruits of his labor. His team of volunteers, therapists, and art instructors were there, preparing for their first official day of classes. Everything was set up: easels, clay molds, paint brushes, and a whole assortment of art supplies, all carefully chosen to help the children connect with their emotions through creativity. Alex stood at the entrance with Elon, who had taken a break from his usual whirlwind of meetings to be there with him. Elon's presence was steady, calm, and reassuring, much like it had always been. His support had been unwavering throughout the entire process, but today, as they watched the children and their families walk through the doors, Alex could see the pride in his eyes. "You did it," Elon said quietly, his voice filled with admiration. "This is real, Alex. It's happening." Alex looked around at the children who were eagerly exploring the space, touching the art supplies, talking to the therapists, and finding their way into the activity rooms. It was hard to believe this was the same man who had once been locked into a world of security, constantly guarding someone else's life. Now, he was watching other people's lives being transformed. "I never imagined it would be like this," Alex replied, his voice thick with emotion. It's more than I ever expected." The ribbon-cutting ceremony was simple but powerful. It wasn't about fanfare or speeches. It was about the kids. As they cut the ribbon, the children cheered, running into the center with excitement. They had been waiting for this moment, for the opportunity to find their own voice, to express their emotions in a safe space. And for Alex, it was more than just a building opening. It was the moment he knew that everything he had fought for, everything he had worked for, had paid off. Over the next few months, the Art Therapy Center became a central part of the local community. Word spread quickly about what Alex and his team were offering. More children began attending, and the positive feedback from parents and medical staff alike was overwhelming. The kids, who had once been consumed by their illnesses, now had a place to forget their worries and find joy again through the creative process. One of the most moving moments for Alex came when Zoe, the young girl he had met earlier, brought her latest artwork to him. She had been struggling with her cancer treatments, but through the art sessions, she had found a way to cope with her emotions. Her drawings had become more than just pictures. They were an expression of everything she had been feeling: fear, pain, and hope. Alex sat down with Zoe in one of the art rooms, looking at her drawings. "These are incredible," Alex said, looking at the colorful sketches she had made. "You've really captured something here, Zoe. What's this one about?" Zoe, though shy, smiled softly. "It's a picture of me flying with a dragon. I'm not scared anymore. The dragon is big and strong, and it's helping me go places." Alex felt a lump in his throat. He had seen many kids come through the center, but Zoe's art was something special. It was more than just a picture. It was her way of reclaiming power in a world that had taken so much from her. She had found her strength through her art, and in that moment, Alex realized how far his program had come. It wasn't just about giving the kids something to do. It was about giving them the tools to heal, to express themselves, and to envision a future beyond their illness. The success of the center led to more opportunities. Alex's program was featured in various medical and art journals, and other cities started reaching out to ask if they could implement similar programs. There were discussions about expanding, making the Art Therapy Center a nationwide initiative. Alex had gone from protecting one person's life to protecting and improving the lives of hundreds and maybe even thousands of children. But as his program continued to grow, Alex found himself wondering where this new path would take him. He had built something meaningful, a place where children could not only find healing, but also discover their own potential. And yet, the question still lingered in the back of his mind. What about his own future? One evening, after the center had closed for the day, Alex stood at the back of the building, looking out at the garden that had become a sanctuary for the children. The soft glow of the lights illuminated the plants and sculptures scattered throughout the space. It was peaceful here, a far cry from the chaotic world of security and protection that had once consumed him. Elon found him standing there, his hands in his pockets, gazing out at the garden. "You've done it, Alex. This place is everything you envisioned and more," Elon said, joining him by his side. Alex nodded, his eyes still fixed on the garden. "I never thought I'd get here. It's not just the building, you know. It's what it represents. It's the kids, it's their stories. They're the real heroes here." Elon smiled, his voice steady. "You're a hero too. You just had to see it yourself. All that strength you put into protecting me, you put into this program. And look what you've created." Alex exhaled, a small, satisfied smile tugging at his lips. "Yeah, I guess I'm finally starting to see it too." The silence between them was comfortable. They didn't need to speak anymore. Alex had found his purpose, not in shadows, not in protecting others, but in helping children find their light. And as he stood there, side by side with the man who had helped him realize his potential, Alex knew that this was only the beginning. The road ahead would have its challenges, but he was ready for it. This wasn't just a job or a mission. It was his life's work, and he was living it fully, with a sense of pride and fulfillment he had never known before. As time passed, the Art Therapy Center continued to flourish, its impact reverberating through every life it touched. What Alex had built was more than just a space for creative expression. It was a symbol of resilience, a testament to the power of human connection and the ability to heal through art. Children who had once felt isolated, consumed by the struggles of their illnesses, were now finding strength through their own creations. And the center had become a community in itself, a place where hope was nurtured and where families, once burdened by the weight of their circumstances, could find solace and support. But Alex knew that his work was not finished. The success of the center had created an undeniable ripple effect. inspiring people across the country to take a closer look at the intersection of art and healing. What had started as a small, humble project was now becoming a movement. Cities were reaching out to him, eager to replicate his model in their own communities. And with Elon's continued support, both financially and emotionally, Alex began to expand his mission to a national scale. Despite the expanding scope of his work, Alex remained grounded. Every time he saw the joy in a child's face as they discovered a new way to express themselves, he was reminded of why he had started this journey in the first place. It was about more than just providing an outlet for creativity. It was about giving children a chance to reclaim their power, to take control of their narrative, and to see themselves not as victims of their circumstances, but as warriors in their own right. One day, after a particularly successful art exhibit held at the center, featuring the works of the children who had attended Alex's program, Elon visited to check on the progress. The exhibit had been a huge success, drawing a crowd of supporters, families, and even media. It was a chance for the kids to show off their work, to tell their stories in ways that words could never fully capture. The walls were lined with bright, bold paintings and intricate sculptures, each piece radiating emotion and resilience. Alex was standing in front of one of the larger pieces, a mural painted by a young boy named Tyler, who had been struggling with leukemia. The mural depicted a massive, swirling galaxy filled with stars, planets, and nebulae, a beautiful representation of Tyler's imagination. The boy had poured all of his fears, hopes, and dreams into the painting, and it was nothing short of stunning. "That's a masterpiece," Elon remarked, joining Alex by the mural. "I never thought I'd see something like this coming from a child who's been through so much." Alex nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "Tyler's been through a lot, but this mural is his way of making sense of it all. He sees the universe as something big and infinite, full of possibility. It's his way of showing he has a future. He just needed the chance to express it." Elon was quiet for a moment, taking in the mural. "I think you've created something incredible here, Alex. Not just for the kids, but for everyone. You're not just providing art lessons. You're providing them with a sense of ownership over their own future. You're giving them a way to see themselves as more than just their illness." Alex turned to Elon, a deep sense of gratitude filling him. "I couldn't have done it without you. You believed in this from the start, even when I had doubts. You've been more than just a supporter. You've been my partner in this." Elon smiled faintly. "I've always believed in your potential, Alex. And this is something that can truly change lives." As the evening wore on, Alex found himself standing outside the center, looking up at the stars. The night air was cool and crisp, and the space around him was calm. He had worked so hard to get here, and the journey had been filled with challenges. But it had also been filled with moments of unexpected beauty, with glimpses of hope in the eyes of the children whose lives he had touched. And that made every hardship worth it. His phone buzzed, breaking him from his thoughts. It was a message from Zoe, the young girl whose dragon drawing had inspired Alex months earlier. She had sent him a new piece of artwork, a picture of herself flying high on the back of a dragon, this time with her parents beside her. Alex couldn't help but smile as he read the message. The picture had changed from the first drawing she had shared with him. This time, Zoe had added a sun in the sky, casting golden rays over the dragon and her family. The colors were brighter, the strokes bolder. He texted her back, telling her how proud he was of her and that her art was truly inspiring. As he put his phone down, Alex realized just how far he had come. This was more than just a new chapter in his life. It was a new story, one that he had written himself. He had gone from being the man who kept others safe to the one who was showing others how to find their own strength. In that moment, he knew that no matter what came next, he had found his true purpose. This wasn't just about helping children express themselves through art. It was about helping them discover who they really were beyond their illness. It was about showing them that there was always light, even in the darkest of times. Months later, as Alex stood in front of a group of supporters and community leaders during the grand opening of a new center in a different city, he realized just how far his mission had grown. There were new centers being opened in more cities, reaching more children and helping more families. The message was spreading. Art could heal, and through it, the children were healing too. As he cut the ribbon at the new center, he thought about the journey that had brought him here. The long nights, the challenges, the doubts, all of it had led him to this moment. He wasn't just fulfilling a dream. He was creating a legacy that would live on in the lives of the children whose stories have been heard, whose lives have been transformed. And behind him, watching the children run into the new center with excitement and joy, Alex knew that the story wasn't over. It had only just begun.